So, amidst the rise of digital gaming, declining sales, a stock market controversy so wildly out there it quite literally spawned a feature film based on it, and the rise of online gaming retailers such as DK Oldies and Double Jump Games, GameStop finally decided that it was time to capitalize on being, well, a video game store, converting some of their locations around the world into retro GameStops, finally offering up games on older systems, going as far back as the original NES, instead of shelling out these soulless pop figures. Honestly, it's kind of sad that the world's largest gaming store is only now realizing that they could be selling older titles. So today, we're going to be taking a brief look at GameStop's modern history, as well as document my personal experiences with their new retro stores. But in order to understand how GameStop got to this point, I think it's important to take a look back and talk about a little bit about this store's past, and the many positive experiences many of us had with this corporate chain that is the equivalent of fast food for physical gaming. Because I genuinely think it's important. Not to mention it'll help contextualize their fall from grace. So, time for a quick history lesson.
Excuse me, it's ma'am.
See, I told you it was going to be a short history lesson. In all seriousness, the early 2000s to the 2010s was a great time for GameStop. In fact, sales were so high that they actually managed to acquire another famous gaming chain that I'm sure a few of you remember, EB Games. Not me though. Yeah, the most I can remember of EB Games was seeing a few advertisements online or on TV. Never actually been to one of these myself. Am I missing out? Let me know in the comments down below. I think I remember this rabbit thing. Now, I'm willing to bet that many, if not all of you watching this, have fond memories of GameStop, especially if you're in your early 20s like me. Anyway, when I was younger, there was absolutely nothing better in life than managing to convince your parents to stop at GameStop while out running errands, or heading to the store with a pocket full of birthday and or Christmas cash. Walking around, getting to see all kinds of different video games on the shelves, TVs playing advertisements for new releases, or like some kind of online talk show. Never really knew what this was actually. Oh man, not to mention the kiosks? Those were so awesome. They had these for all major systems at the time. I have so many memories playing demos for games on this particular kind of PS2 kiosk. This also allowed me to try out games on systems I didn't have at the time. This is actually how I got my first experience with Super Mario Galaxy. That's depressing, isn't it? Oh, and how could I forget the obvious, the trade-in system, letting me take the games that I've already finished and exchanging them in for cash to use on new experiences. Like the time I traded in a stack of 360 games to use on Gears of War 4, only to be given like 35 in store credit. This is foreshadowing, by the way. Plus, once we actually make it to the checkout with a game, the dude behind the counter will always ask me if I was looking to pre-order anything, and when I tell him no, he'll try to hound me in an attempt to get a protection plan on a game that will spend most of its life living on my shelf, contemplating the futility in existence while I buy more games, knowing that most of my collection is unplayed. So yeah, GameStop wasn't all perfect, but genuinely, and I mean this without any sarcastic undertones or backhanded compliments, there was always something magical about visiting GameStop back in the day. Not to get personal or anything, but I grew up quite poor, meaning that buying new games was a rarity, only really happening on special occasions. So, picking up a new game, flipping through the manual on the drive home, barreling into my room to start playing something new, there really wasn't anything better than that, which makes their decline all the more sad to see. The 7th generation of gaming hardware was really the last time the majority of customers bought their games physically. Digital was an option on the 360 and PS3, but it was still the norm to head over to your local store and pick up the major titles. But when we got into the Xbox One and PS4 generation, things really took a turn for the worst. It became convenient. It wasn't right away, of course, but as the 2010s rolled on, physical games became more and more obsolete when compared to digital. I mean, you can buy them from the comfort of your own home, play them instantly rather than having to walk over and swap out the disc. Okay, I know that sounds like a small thing to complain about, but it is actually surprisingly annoying. Now, listen, I'll always prefer physical over digital. I just really love pollution. But you cannot deny the convenience and benefits of digital gaming. Combine this with GameStop's shocking mismanagement over the years, taking space that was once used for their gaming inventory now gets to be used up by miscellaneous pop culture merchandise. Because when I think of GameStop, my mind immediately goes to Schwack Hammer from Space Jam 1. It's no surprise that this is when they started to spiral. Not to mention that due to GameStop offering pennies for trade-ins, not many people were interested in trading in their games, leading to the obvious decline of pre-owned inventory and an increase in unwanted trinkets and novelty items. And this went on for years. Honestly, GameStop was never really able to rebound from this. Their inevitable death was stemming from a disgusting identity crisis and the growing popularity of digital releases. And in 2021, things were looking very bleak. That is, until the Redditors rose up. Now, I am not nearly well informed enough to describe the GameStop stock incident in detail. From what I've gathered, it's kind of a clusterfuck. Regardless, the incident temporarily boosted GameStop's stock price, and the free publicity got a lot of people to pay attention to the dying company again. Heck, it was around this time I started to give them a shot again. Since then, it's been an improvement. The locations near me anyway trimmed out a lot of the fat on the junk side of things that they had taking up space, slimming down their merchandise lineup to only the necessities, popular gaming IPs with the occasional bit of anime and comic book stuff sprinkled in. Still kept that disgusting wall of pop figures. Unfortunately though, GameStop's reputation was and will probably be forever tarnished by overbearing policy, bare bones game selections, and shitty trade-in values. Digital gaming is more common than ever, with services like Game Pass and PlayStation Plus pulling more and more customers away from physical games. Hell, the PlayStation 5 Pro doesn't even come with a disc tray. Okay, I know the rest of the internet has already dunked on them for this, but selling a marginally better PS5 with no disc tray for $700? Yeah, no thank you, Sony. Go fuck yourself. If GameStop wanted to come anywhere near their previous status, some serious changes were in order.
Oh, nigga!
On August 27th, 2024, the GameStop Twitter account randomly dropped the bombshell that a select few locations were going to be converted into retro stores. Did this mean that certain GameStops around the country were going to be given a full redesign to accommodate retro gaming from a whole variety of systems? No. But the selected GameStops were given an increase of retro stock and gave them an entire section on the floor to display them, which is a step in the right direction, since in the past, on the rare occasion that they would have older titles, the only way to see them was to ask the employees behind the counter. This announcement took me completely off guard. No joke, I was at a GameStop a month prior when I watched them turn away a guy trying to trade in a PS2 and a stack of old games. If only that person waited another month, he could have gotten at least $24 for that make. But all in all, this was a pretty good choice for the company to make, especially since with the rise of online resellers and people my age getting nostalgic for games from our younger days, more and more people are buying retro consoles and video games. If anything, I'm more surprised that they didn't hop on this trend sooner. Now, general reactions to this announcement were all over the place. In the replies to the original tweet, you've got people agreeing that while they were obviously cashing in on nostalgia, it was a good business decision. People rightfully pointing out the fact that GameStop doing this, despite literally trashing older games they couldn't sell in the past, might have been coming across as a bit hypocritical. Oh, plus people pointing out the obvious that GameStop is gonna GameStop. And my personal favorite, people realizing that the Xbox 360 is nearly as old as the NES was to it on release. But overall, I'd say people were feeling good about this decision. And I mean, why wouldn't they? Not only is GameStop the most prominent specialty video game store in the US, therefore making older titles more widely available, but having a large corporate chain offering retro games could possibly lead to the decrease in retro game prices, because oh my god, it's gotten out of control. Theoretically, of course, but customers were still eager to see what they had to offer, until it started to come out that the marketing may have overhyped it a little bit.
What up, Reddit?
I head out there, I show up, and I am immediately greeted with the retro section.
which was this.
The way that they advertised it, they have not sent me the inventory as they advertised.
And it was very familiar to what I've seen from GameStop before.
I actually found out from a customer. He told me a week before I actually found out from my district manager.
5, 6, 7 shelves of games. This is the GameStop Retro store.
So, on the whole, it seems like GameStop Retro stores have a very sparse selection of games. The corporate did an awful job communicating the shift to selling retro stuff. And finally, the pricing was all over the place, sometimes being a bargain and others being on par with what scalpers are charging online. The general consensus was this was a pretty underwhelming execution of what is unanimously agreed upon to be a great concept. But this was around the very start of this initiative. So, you may be wondering, what's the status of these retro stores now, a few months after they first popped up? Better? Worse? The same? That's what I was eager to find out, so I popped open the GameStop website and tracked down the nearest retro GameStop near me, only to find out that there were only 4 locations near me that have adopted the retro title. I didn't mention this before, but I do find it odd that this is exclusive to a few stores. Wouldn't it make more sense to add a retro selection to all locations? There's probably more to it, but I don't know, I think it'd be a good idea. Nevertheless, I've found my location and paid it a visit. Also, despite me visiting this location with the intention of documenting my experience for this video, I apparently neglected to take so much as a single photo of this store, so I'll be using images and videos from others to get my point across. But all of my thoughts and opinions expressed in this video are from my own personal experience visiting my own GameStop Retro. I know it's confusing, just please keep in mind that the visuals you'll be seeing are not from my specific store I was shopping at. But, as you'll see, it's more similar looking than you'd expect. When I walked in the door, I was greeted with the typical GameStop fare. Need any help? No, just looking. And, well, yeah, it was in fact a GameStop. Nothing new or special about it. Now, I actually do visit GameStops fairly frequently these days, so I know that other locations would place their retro titles around their modern equivalent, like you'd find a few 360 games next to the Series X and S stuff. Same with the PS3 and PS5 games. But once I checked there, I didn't see anything. Strange, but then I headed back and it all made sense. The older games, which were once spread about the store, were all now consolidated on one wall in the back of the shop. And the selection was okay. Alright, no, I can't lie to you. It was pretty disappointing. There was actually a pretty decent selection of 360, PS3, and Wii games. Unlike others talking about this, I'm not gonna give them too much crap for this, okay? Whether we like it or not, these systems are nearly 2 decades old at this point. But considering all the marketing, it's expectedly disappointing to see. I mean, these specific games have always been sold at GameStops, and I just want to see representation for the gaming systems I haven't seen at GameStop in forever. I'm talking about the OG Xbox, GameCube, PS2, hell, even N64 and NES. All they had was 2 OG Xbox games, and one of them was in a cheap GameStop replacement case.
Oh, brother!
But they did have a fairly well-stocked display case full of DS and 3DS titles. Pokemon Pearl is still being sold for $80. Oh my god, there is no hope for humanity. Hell, they even had a few Wii U games there. All decent titles, little to no shovelware as well, so credit where it's due. And to my absolute shock, they had an entire shelf of 3DS games. Not a single one of them had their original case, but it's better than having them sit in the display case. And that was about it game-wise. They did have a pretty decent stock of old gaming accessories though. Stuff like Xbox 360 controllers, PlayStation Move charging docks, 360 hard drives, Wii nunchucks, DS styluses. That was a pretty welcome surprise. But, once again, that was it. They didn't even have any systems or cartridge games in the glass case. Listen, when I go to your store looking for retro games and I come out with Gears of War Judgment, you know something has gone wrong. I just want to make this very clear before I get into my final verdict. Obviously, every GameStop Retro you visit is going to vary slightly, depending on what's been traded into it, so I'm sure there are GameStops knocking it out of the park. However, in my case, while I wanted to come out of this with a positive experience, this was pretty mediocre at best. Now, I wasn't expecting nearly as much as others were. Obviously, much of GameStop inventory comes from trade-ins, like I said before, so if they only now started accepting mass trade-ins of old stuff, it's going to take them a while before they start to accumulate a decent amount. That being said, GameStop is a multi-million-dollar company. One on the decline, sure, but it's still a big entity, so filling the stores with the bare minimum from the warehouses shouldn't have been that big of a deal. I feel like this concept of GameStop Retro was a very sudden and not well communicated idea to those running the stores across the world. Specifically, in Jacob R's video on the subject, he heard from a manager at his location that he didn't even know that his store was a designated retro shop until a customer told him.
I actually found out from a customer. She told me a week before I actually found out from my district manager.
Which is embarrassing in many ways, and I'm willing to bet that other locations have very similar stories. Across the board, you'll hear everyone echoing the same experience I had. Despite the marketing, you'll only really find PS3, 360, and Wii games, with the occasional PS2, GameCube, or OG Xbox game, and I mean rare. And maybe if you're especially lucky, you'll find a cartridge game or retro system. In that case, go buy a lottery ticket because I saw none of that. My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined. Well, I absolutely believe that bringing retro games back to GameStop is the right move, because as time marches on, less and less people are buying physical games. So selling exclusively new titles won't remain sustainable for much longer. Not to mention that retro gaming is a rapidly growing market. There is real money to be made price gouging things from our childhood, folks, okay? Don't ever deny that. That being said, however, it hasn't been great so far. Just barely reaching the minimum requirements to be considered a retro store. My immediate suggestion would be to prioritize getting the retro GameStops stacked up with a decent selection of games on a wide range of systems. At the very least, more PS2 and original Xbox content should be prioritized. Then, from there, focus on getting trade-ins and retro systems to sell, even if that means, and I know GameStop is shivering in their boots at the thought of this, paying them a decent price for their items, because if they don't, this won't really work. At the end of the day, I really do believe that GameStop Retro could be the thing that prevents GameStop from dying completely. But from my personal experience with my closest store, it won't be saving anything in the state it's currently in. They either need to go all in on the locations they've selected or narrow the scope of the project. Because right now, I'd suggest trading these stores back in for store credit. But then all they'd give me back is $15 and a cheeseburger with a bite taken out of it, so it's not worth it. So, that was my thoughts on GameStop's new retro stores. But what do you think? Do you like them? Love them? Think they're trash? Let me know in the comments down below! Oh, what the hell, man? Where am I? Oh.